They still talk about that summer like it was some kind of prophecy. 94. The year the heat never left, the cops never slept, and blood painted the alleys like graffiti nobody dared to wash off. That's when they started calling me Saint. Not because I was holy, but because when I pulled that trigger, somebody's soul always went home early. I grew up on Rosecrans and Wilmington, right where the 710 hums like a beast at night. The block raised me harder than any father ever could. Pops was gone before I hit 10. Mom's tried, but 2 jobs and 3 kids don't leave much time for saving one soul, especially mine. By 15, I already knew the rhythm of gunshots better than church bells. I knew which corner to duck behind, which alley to run through, which face to trust for a minute and then forget by morning. But I wasn't always cold. I used to draw sketch cars, faces, the sky. My homie Malik used to clown me for that. "Yo, Saint, you gon' be Picasso of the hood or what?" I'd laugh. "Nah, just trying to draw something clean in a dirty world." He'd slap my shoulder, grin. "Only thing clean out here is death, my boy." I met Malik when we were kids, chasing ice cream trucks with pockets full of lint. By high school, we were running with the East Side Hustlers, not by choice but by survival. Out here, neutrality's just another way to get buried. Our OG Big Tone saw I had a steady hand. First time I ever held a gun, it felt too light. Like death shouldn't weigh less than a loaf of bread. But once I pulled the trigger, that sound, that crack, it echoed through my bones. Tone looked at me like I just baptized myself. "You see that?" he said, grinning wide. "That's purpose, lil homie. That's why you here." From that night on, I became the go-to. Drive-bys, revenge hits, whatever needed precision. People said I never missed. I started to believe it myself. It was a Friday when everything began to shift. The air was thick, hot, heavy, like the city was holding its breath. Me and Malik sat on the porch of his aunt's house, sharing a 40, listening to old Tupac tapes. The world felt slow, like we were stuck between beats. Then Big Tone rolled up in his blue 87 Monte Carlo, chrome shining like pride. He killed the engine, stepped out, and we could tell something was off by the way he didn't say a word at first. "Y'all heard what went down last night?" We shook our heads. "Little Dre from the West got dropped outside the liquor store. Word is, our name got tied to it." Malik frowned. "That wasn't us, Tone. We been chillin'." Tone nodded. "I know, but they don't. West Side think we back on that bullshit. And now they talkin' retaliation." He turned his eyes to me. "I need you tonight, Saint. Quick cleanup. Make it loud enough they get the message." My stomach nodded. Another hit, another soul, another scar nobody saw. But out here, hesitation gets you killed faster than bullets. I nodded. "Where we headed?" Tone grinned. "You'll know when we get there." That night, the city glowed red and gold under the setting sun. We rolled deep. Tone driving, Malik riding shotgun, me in the back with my piece resting cold on my thigh. The Monte Carlo rattled with bass as we cruised down Alameda. Every block we passed felt like a memory trying to forget itself. Tone finally spoke. "Word is, they chillin' outside that corner store on Palmer. Same spot they left our boy Stretch last month." He looked in the rearview mirror, eyes locking on mine. "Saint, you do what you do best." The world slowed down when we turned that corner. I saw them, 5 of them, laughing, smoking, not even looking our way. Kids, really. Same age as me, maybe younger. Tone's voice dropped. "Let's send a message." Malik hesitated, whispering, "Yo, Tone, that's a lot of heads, man." But Tone just raised his hand, signal to go. I breathed in once, deep and cold. My finger found the trigger like muscle memory. The first shot cracked the silence open. Then another, then another. The car windows shattered with muzzle flashes. Screams, running, glass exploding, tires screeching. It was over in seconds. The car sped off, the night swallowed the noise, and my heart beat louder than the gun. Malik turned back, face pale. "Yo, you hit one." Tone smirked. "One's all it takes when Saint's behind the trigger." But I didn't feel proud. I felt a hollow, like the bullet didn't just leave the gun. It took a piece of me with it. Later that night, I sat in my room, staring at my hands. They didn't shake. They never did. That's what scared me. I heard sirens outside, distant, fading. My little sister, Keisha, knocked on the door. "Marcus," she said softly. Mama said, "Turn that music down. It's late." I turned the radio off. "Yeah, tell her I'm going to bed." She smiled, innocent, untouched by what lived just beyond our streetlights. When she left, I whispered to myself, "Sleeps for saints, huh?" Then I laughed, low and bitter. The kind of laugh that doesn't make sound, just air. By morning, word spread fast. The corner store was taped off. 1 dead, 3 wounded. The news said it was gang retaliation, same old story. But the streets? They said my name like it was a curse and a prayer at the same time. Saint don't miss. Saint brings judgment. Saint don't feel. I started to believe my own legend. That's the dangerous part, when you stop being human and start being what people say you are. A week later, Malik pulled up on me outside the rec center. He had that look, the one that meant trouble. "Yo, Saint," he said. "You hear about Lil Rico?" I frowned. "Nah, what about him?" "He got snatched last night. Cops said somebody tipped him off." I leaned back. "You think it was one of ours?" He nodded slowly. "Don't think so." "Says he got a name." The air thickened again. Every time Tone said he had a name, it meant somebody wasn't waking up tomorrow. That night, we met behind the old tire shop. The whole crew was there: Tone, Malik, Rico's cousin Darnell, and me. Tone held a manila envelope, slid a photo out, and dropped it on the hood. I froze. It was Dev, Malik's cousin, the one who used to play ball with us after school, the one who brought us free fries when he worked at the burger spot. Tone's face was stone. "Snitched to the cops. Told them where we keep the stash house. Cost us 10 grand and 2 soldiers. Malik's jaw clenched. "Ain't no way. Dev ain't built like that." Tone looked at me. "Saint, you know what time it is?" I stared at the photo. Dev's smile. Frozen, easy, innocent. Felt like a ghost already haunting me. I glanced at Malik. He was breathing heavy, shaking his head. "Nah, Tone. Not family." Tone's voice cut sharp. "Out here, blood don't mean shit if it leaks the wrong way. Handle it." I didn't answer, just nodded. Tone patted my shoulder like a proud father. "That's my saint." Later that night, I walked alone down 112th Street, the Glock heavy in my pocket. Every step echoed like a countdown. I found Dev sitting on the porch of his mama's house, smoking, music playing low. He smiled when he saw me. "Jo, Saint. What's good, bro? Ain't seen you in a minute." I forced a smile. "Just trying to keep my head low." He laughed. "You? Man, you the last one keepin' low. Everybody talking 'bout that Palmer hit. You out here a damn legend." The word hit me wrong, legend. If only he knew. We sat for a bit, talking about nothing. Childhood, girls, Lakers, life. Then I asked, "You ever think about leaving this place?" He chuckled. "All the time. But the hood don't let you leave clean. You know that." I nodded slowly, my hand brushing the grip in my pocket. The streetlight flickered above us, humming low. I couldn't do it. Not him. Not like this. I stood up, said, "Stay safe, Dev," and walked away. The next morning, Malik was at my door, eyes wide, voice trembling. "Jo, Tone's dead." My heart stopped. "What?" "Somebody hit him last night, outside his girl's place. 2 shots to the chest. They say Dev's people did it." Everything went quiet, like the city itself took a breath and forgot how to exhale. I sat down on the porch, staring at the street. Tone was gone. The man who made me who I was. And Dev, the one I spared, now wearing the crown of vengeance. Malik looked at me, tears barely held back. "What we gon' do, Saint?" I didn't answer right away. My eyes followed the sun setting over Compton's rooftops, the sky bleeding orange and red like a wound that never closed. Finally, I said, "We finish what we started." That's when I realized something. Legends ain't born. They're built from pain, loss, and the lies we tell ourselves just to keep going. And me? I wasn't a saint. I was just a man with a gun, too afraid to put it down. The morning after Tone's death, Compton felt different. The streets were too quiet, the air too heavy. Even the dogs stopped barking like they knew the block was holding its breath. Tone had been the spine of our crew. Without him, everything bent the wrong way. I sat on my porch watching the smoke from the factory drift across the skyline. Every sound made me reach for the piece tucked under my shirt. Sirens, tires screeching, someone's laughter down the street. I wasn't scared of dying. I was scared of not knowing who would make it happen. Malik pulled up in his cousin's Honda. The rims still spun when he jumped out. "You good?" he asked. I nodded, lying. "Dev's crew talking heavy," he said. "They think you next." I felt something tighten in my chest. I'd spared Dev, tried to believe mercy meant something. Now mercy looked like weakness. "Where they at?" I asked. "Everybody move in. Ain't nobody showing face." He stared at me for a second. "Saint, you ain't gotta carry all this yourself." I looked at him, really looked. Malik still had that same boyish face, but the light in his eyes was dimming. "Tone's gone. Somebody gotta stand up," I said. He shook his head. "Or we all fall down." That week blurred together. Funerals, whispers, meetings in dark parking lots. The hustlers were breaking apart without Tone to hold the glue. Half wanted peace, half wanted payback. And me? I was stuck in the middle, carrying a reputation too heavy to put down. The hood started calling me a ghost again, not because I was invisible, but because I wasn't living right. Every knock at the door felt like judgment. I'd walk down the block and folks would lower their voices. Mothers pulled their kids close. Even my own mama barely looked at me. "Marcus," she said one night, her hands shaking over the sink. "Your little sister don't sleep no more. Every car that drives by, she think it's for you." "I'm trying to fix it, Ma," I whispered. She turned, eyes wet but hard. "You can't fix hell, baby. You can only leave it." Malik called the next day. "Meet me at the park." Noon. When I got there, he was sitting on the swings, cigarette hanging loose from his lips. The park used to be alive. Kids, basketball games, music. But now it was just wind and dust. He handed me a folded paper. Inside was a photo of Dev, grainy and recent, standing with some older dudes I didn't know. "He ain't just running with his cousins no more," Malik said. "These cats from Inglewood, they move in product heavy. Tone's death gave them space." I stared at the picture. Dev looked older, colder. "You think he did it?" Malik shrugged. "Don't know. Don't matter. Streets think he did. That's enough." The words burned. Out here, truth didn't survive long. Only rumors did. I slid the photo back to him. "I'll handle it." That night, rain hit the city for the first time in weeks. The water ran down the gutters, carrying cigarette butts, bottle caps, and everything else we tried to bury. I drove with the window cracked, the smell of wet asphalt cutting through my head like a memory. I ended up outside Dev's mama's place again. Engine off, lights low. The same porch light flickered like before. I could see silhouettes moving behind the curtains. Family trying to live normal while war brewed outside. I thought about Tone, about all the nights he'd told us control the streets or they control you. And I thought about Keisha, how she asked me last night if heaven had room for people like me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. After a while, I turned the key, drove off slow. The rain hid the tears just fine. Back at Malik's place, I found him pacing. "Where you been?" "Nowhere." He frowned. "We got word the cops raided one of our traps." "Somebody talking again." I rubbed my temples. "Ain't no end to this." He kicked a chair, frustration spilling out. "You think I don't know that? Tone kept us together. Now everybody looking at you, Saint. They think you gone lead." The word hit me like a slap. Leader. I never asked for that. I was just a trigger they aimed. "Maybe it's time to do things different," I said. Malik stopped pacing. "Different how? End this before we lose everything." He stared at me, disbelief turning into anger. "You sound like you scared." "I'm tired," I said quietly. "Ain't the same thing." We didn't talk for a long time after that. Days turned to weeks. The city kept spinning. Every night felt heavier. News reports of drive-bys, sirens screaming lullabies. I started having dreams. Faces of people I couldn't save, voices calling my name like they wanted answers I didn't have. Then one afternoon, I got a call from Keisha at school, crying. "They came looking for you," she said. "Some dudes in red. Said they'd be back." That was it. The line between revenge and protection disappeared. I couldn't let my family carry my sins. I packed a bag, grabbed the gun from the drawer, and went to find Malik. He was at the car wash off Long Beach Boulevard, arguing with a couple of the younger homies. They wanted to strike back right away. Malik saw me coming, nodded for them to leave. "Your sister okay?" "For now," I said. He rubbed his face. "I got word Dev move in a shipment tonight. Same spot Tone used to run." Our eyes met, both knowing what that meant. "After tonight," he said, "we done." I wanted to believe that. I really did. The sky was bruised purple when we rolled out. Every streetlight flickered like it didn't want to see what was coming. Malik drove, his hands shaking just enough to show he still had a conscience. I sat silent, staring out the window at a city that looked too small for all the ghosts it held. We parked 2 blocks away from the old warehouse. The night smelled like oil and wet concrete. I checked my weapon, feeling the metals chill against my palm. Malik whispered, "We ain't gotta do this." "Yeah," I said. "We do." We moved through the shadows, hearts beating louder than our steps. I could see movement near the loading dock, figures, voices, laughter. Somewhere in that mix was Dev. My breath caught. All I could think about was that porch, the rain, his easy smile. Then Malik's phone buzzed. A single vibration that felt like thunder. He looked down, eyes widening. "What?" I whispered. "It's from Dev," he said. "He says he wanna talk. Alone." That single word, talk, was like light breaking through smoke. "Set it up," I said. Half an hour later, I was standing under a broken streetlight near the canal. The city quiet except for the hum of traffic far away. Malik waited in the car, engine running. Dev showed up slow, hands in his hoodie pocket, rain misting around him. He looked older than the picture, tired but alert. "You still breathin'," he said softly. "So are you." He nodded. "Guess that make us miracles." We stood there in silence, the air between us heavy with everything unsaid. "I ain't kill Tone," he said finally. "Swear on my mama." I studied his eyes. I'd seen liars before. He didn't look like one. "Then why you runnin' with the ones who did?" "Because out here, you either pick a side or die standin' alone." I took a step closer. "Tone believed in you. Tone believed in control," Dev snapped. "You think he kept y'all fed for free? Man had deals with cops, with rivals, with anyone paying. He built a trap and called it a kingdom." The words cut deeper than I wanted them to. "You lying to..." He shook his head. "You just don't want to hear it." For a second, I saw the kid from the park again, the one who used to talk about leaving. Maybe he never left because none of us ever did. The streets weren't a place. They were a curse stitched into our skin. Before I could answer, headlights flared at the end of the alley. Malik's voice shouted my name. Tires screeched. Then chaos, shouts, motion, confusion. I ducked behind a wall, heart hammering. When it cleared, Dev was gone. So was the car. The only thing left was the echo of Malik's voice fading into the night. I ran home before dawn, rain mixing with sweat, clothes clinging. The house was dark except for Keisha's room light. She was asleep, school books on her chest. I sat beside her bed, watched her breathe. For the first time in years, I prayed quiet, broken words asking for something I didn't deserve. I didn't know where Malik was, didn't know who I could trust. All I knew was that every road out of Compton led back to itself. By the end of that week, the whole neighborhood buzzed with new rumors. Betrayal, deals gone bad, Malik seen with people he shouldn't be seen with. The same faces that once praised me now looked away. The name Saint started sounding like a warning, not a legend. I spent nights alone in my car, parked by the refinery where the smoke rose like ghosts. The city lights blurred through the windshield, turning everything golden and unreal. Sometimes I'd close my eyes and see Tone's grin, Dev's stare, Malik's shaking hands. They weren't enemies or allies anymore, just pieces of the same tragedy. And somewhere deep down, I knew the next move would decide who lived, who left, and who'd be remembered. The block didn't sound the same after the raid. Sirens had faded 2 days ago, but the echo stayed in my head, thin, metallic, endless. Every time a car backfired, my chest jumped. Every shadow felt like a uniform. The air in Compton carried that dry, burnt rubber taste, like something that had already died but hadn't been buried yet. I kept telling myself I was fine. I wasn't. We'd lost 2 spots, Baker Street and the lot behind the liquor store. Half the homies disappeared, some into cells, some into silence. Smoke swore the cops were listening through the phones, so we met in person only, always moving. Every talk felt like a secret inside another secret. I didn't sleep much. When I did, I saw faces. Sometimes Darnell's, sometimes my own, floating behind a cracked mirror. The nights got longer, the mornings shorter, and somewhere in between, I stopped remembering what it felt like to breathe without checking for headlights. Smoke called a meet at an old car wash on Wilmington. It used to be his uncle's place before the gang wars turned it into a ghost shell. When I pulled up, the sign still flickered Superwash $5.99, half the bulbs dead. Inside, hoses hung like snakes from the ceiling. Smoke stood near a busted coin machine, arms folded, eyes darting like he'd swallowed too much caffeine. "Where's Deke?" I asked. He shrugged. "Ain't showed. Probably layin' low." That wasn't like Deke. He was the one who always showed. Smoke lit a cigarette and didn't look at me. "You still runnin' with Kilo's boys?" "Sometimes," I said. "Why?" Smoke exhaled through his nose, slow. "'Cause word is, they think you talkin' to them more than us." I stared at him. "That's weak talk." "Maybe. Or maybe somebody feed in the cops. Somebody close." The words landed heavy, like bricks on my chest. For a second, I thought he was joking, but Smoke's face didn't move. "You think that's me?" He didn't answer, just flicked ash on the concrete. That's when I knew the streets were tunnin' again. Not against the cops, against each other. That night, I drove through the east side alone. The streetlights blinked like dying eyes. Every block had its own rhythm. Dogs barking, old radios through cracked windows, somebody's mom yelling for her kid to come home. I used to love that sound. Now it just felt haunted. At a red light, I caught my reflection in the windshield. Hollow eyes, scruff on my chin, hoodie up. I didn't look like the legend people whispered about. I looked like a ghost still trying to remember why it was here. The light turned green and I didn't move. Just sat there until a car behind me honked. The next day, I went to find Deke. His grandma lived off Central, tiny yellow house with iron bars on the windows. She said he hadn't been home for 2 nights. "Something wrong, baby?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nah, just need to talk to him." She smiled, but her eyes said she didn't believe me. She'd seen too many boys like us vanish between dusk and dawn. Later that week, Smoke hit me again, this time more urgent. "Meet me behind the church. Midnight." When I got there, he was pacing by the fence. No lights, just the hum of the freeway nearby. "You bring anyone?" he asked. "Nah. You?" He shook his head, then stepped closer. "They got Deke." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "Cops, maybe. Or somebody worse. Word is, he flipped." I laughed, but it came out empty. "Deke? He ain't built like that." Smoke stared. "They got tape, Saint. He talkin'." For a long time, I didn't say a word. Just listened to the cars rolling by above us, like thunder from a world that didn't care. Smoke finally said, "If it's true, we gotta handle it." Something cracked inside me. "You sure it's true?" He didn't answer, just looked down, flicked his lighter open and closed. The click echoed in the dark. I went home that night and sat on the floor. Didn't turn on the lights. Didn't play music. Just sat, hearing my own heartbeat fight the silence. Deke had saved my life once, back when we were 17, caught in the wrong alley. He pulled me behind a dumpster before the shots hit. If he hadn't, I'd have a name on a mural instead of a story to tell. I kept thinking about that moment, his hand on my shoulder, that look that said, "I got you." Could a man like that really turn? Could a man like me really judge if he did? The next evening, Kilo rolled up on me at the corner store. He drove a silver Cutlass, windows tinted dark as sin. "Get in," he said. Inside, the air smelled like cologne and burnt weed. "You heard?" he asked. "About Deke?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "We got eyes on him tonight, near the tracks." I looked out the window. The city lights blurred into red and gold streaks. "What you want from me?" I asked. "Just come see," he said. We parked by the old rail yard, wind slicing through the fences. The moon was low and pale, half hidden behind smog. There was a group of shadows near the warehouse, voices low, nervous. One of them stepped into the light. "Deke." My chest locked up. He looked thinner, face hollow, hoodie pulled tight. When he saw me, his eyes went wide. "Saint," he said. "It ain't what you think." Kilo's boys spread around, forming a half circle. Smoke wasn't there, but his words were. I took one step forward. "Tell me, then." "I didn't talk, bro. They caught me slipping. They said you—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "They said you already told him." The world tilted. "What?" "They said you the one feed in them, that you been working both sides." Every heartbeat sounded like a gun cocking. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to tear the sky open. Instead, I whispered, "You believe that?" Deke's eyes dropped, just for a second, but that was enough. I don't remember walking away, just the sound of gravel under my boots, the smell of rust and oil. Behind me, voices rose, angry, confused, then silence, the kind that cuts deeper than any blade. When I got back to my car, I sat for a long time, engine off. My hands were shaking. I looked at them like they belonged to someone else. This was how legends died, not with fire, but with whispers. Days passed, or maybe hours. Time felt fake. I stayed inside mostly, blinds closed. Sometimes I'd hear kids playing outside and wonder if they'd ever know how close the world was to swallowing them. Every call I got made me flinch. Every knock at the door felt like judgment. I thought about leaving, driving out, heading north, changing my name again. But where would I go? My past was a shadow that knew every road. Smoke came by unannounced one night. He looked older, eyes red, hoodie soaked from rain. "It's done," he said quietly. I didn't ask what he meant. We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the drip of rain off the gutter. Finally, he said, "Things getting bad, real bad. Word's out, somebody gonna hit us next. You gotta be ready." I nodded, though my mind was somewhere else. Back by the tracks, staring at Deke's face. Smoke stood. "You still with us, right?" I looked up at him. "Always." But even as I said it, I felt the lie burning in my throat. That night, I dreamed of Deke again. Not the scared version by the tracks, but the kid I used to know. Laughing, running down the street with a basketball under his arm, shoes slapping the pavement. The sky was gold, not smog gray. The world hadn't turned yet. When I woke up, my pillow was damp. I started seeing ghosts in daylight, faces in reflections, voices in static. The city felt smaller, tighter. The same streets that once made me felt like they were closing in. Every corner reminded me of something lost. Smoke's old jokes, Deke's grin, the way the sun hit the murals at sunset. Compton wasn't a home anymore. It was a memory wrapped in barbed wire. One evening, I drove to the edge of town where the freeway splits. There's a view from the bridge, cars flowing like veins of light, city stretching forever. I stood there for a long time, wind in my face, hoodie pulled tight. Maybe I was looking for forgiveness. Maybe I was just looking for something that still felt real. Somewhere down below, a train horn echoed. I thought of Deke again, his last words, that flicker of doubt. And I knew something had to break. If the streets were a god, they were a jealous one. And I'd been worshiping too long. The next morning, I found Smoke waiting on my porch. He didn't knock, just sat there, hood down, ice cold. "They comin' tonight," he said. "Who?" "Kilo's crew. They think you switched sides." I stared at him. "And what you think?" He looked away. "Don't matter what I think." I understood then everything had come full circle. The stories we told about loyalty, brotherhood, they were just armor against the truth. The block didn't care who you were, only how long you lasted. That night, I loaded what little I had into the trunk. Old photos, a chain, a jacket Deke once gave me. Then I sat behind the wheel and watched the rain smear the streetlights into rivers of color. Smoke's voice echoed in my head. "They come in tonight." Maybe I'd stay. Maybe I'd face it. Maybe I was too tired to run anymore. Outside, thunder rolled over the city like a promise. I took one last look at the rearview mirror and whispered, "Forgive me, brother." Then I started the car, and the night swallowed me whole. The sky broke open that night. Rain fell in sheets, hammering the rooftops like the city was trying to drown its own sins. The streets glistened, puddles glowing under yellow streetlights, smoke rising from the gutters. I remember thinking, maybe this was God's way of washing it all off. But the block never stayed clean for long. I drove without knowing where I was headed. The wipers squeaked with every pass, blurring the world into gray streaks. I kept hearing Smoke's words on repeat. "They come in tonight." It didn't matter who they were anymore. Everybody was somebody's enemy now. The car smelled like rain-soaked leather and burnt nerves. My pistol lay in the passenger seat, cold metal under the dashboard light. I didn't even remember putting it there. It was just part of me now, like an extra heartbeat. Somewhere deep down, I knew I wasn't going to make it through the night. Not because of fear, but because everything I'd ever been was already gone. I pulled into the alley behind an old laundromat. Used to be one of our meet spots. The place was dark, machines gutted, graffiti bleeding across the walls. The hum of the freeway above mixed with the rain, low, endless, like the city whispering secrets. That's when I saw him. Smoke. He was leaning against a rusted dryer, hood up, cigarette glowing like a tiny red moon. "You came," he said. "I always do." He nodded, flicked ash. "They hit Kilo's place an hour ago. Whole thing went up. Word is they comin' for me next. For you too." I looked at him, really looked. The man I used to trust more than myself. His eyes were tired, but calm, like he already knew how this story ended. "So what we do?" I asked. He smiled, small and sad. "Ain't about what we do. It's about what's left after." We sat there for a while, listening to the rain. He told me things I didn't want to hear, about deals gone bad, names traded for protection, how loyalty had been sold off piece by piece while we were too busy surviving to notice. "You think Deke talked?" I asked. Smoke didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but I did." The words hit harder than any bullet. My breath caught. "What you mean?" He looked down at the ground. "They had my brother, man. I thought I could buy him time. Told them what they already knew. But once you start talking, you can't stop. They don't let you." I stood there, rain running down my face like sweat, like tears I couldn't show. "All this time, you said it was Deke." He nodded slowly. "Had to be somebody. Couldn't be me." Something inside me cracked wide open. Not anger, not betrayal, something quieter, like grief that forgot how to scream. He took a step closer. "I ain't proud of it, Saint, but I was tired. You know how it is. Every day, running, hiding, watching your back. Thought maybe I could end it different." "Different how?" "By living, man. Just once." The rain grew heavier. The sound swallowed the silence between us. "You ain't living," I said. "You just breathin' the..." He laughed, but there was no joy in it. "Maybe that's enough." A car passed on the street, headlights flashing through the alley. Smoke's face lit up for a second, enough for me to see how scared he really was. Not of me, not of dying, but of being remembered wrong. He turned away, staring into the dark. "They comin'. You should go. I ain't runnin' no more." He looked over his shoulder. "Then this where it ends." For a long moment we didn't move. Two men caught between what we were and what we'd become. Rain hissed off the metal. The city hummed like a machine too big to care. Somewhere far away, a siren wailed. "Smoke," I said quietly. "Why me?" He hesitated. "'Cause you was the only one they still believed in, the only name they feared. They couldn't touch me unless they took you first." It made sense. Too much sense. I felt the weight of everything, the choices, the ghosts, the legend I never asked to be. I thought about Deke, about his grandmother's house with the yellow paint, about all the boys who never made it to 25, about the way the city builds you just to break you down for sport. Smoke dropped his cigarette and crushed it with his shoe. "Ain't no heroes out here, Saint. Just survivors." I stepped closer. "You wrong. So vivos dito. Heroes just don't get to choose when." I left the alley before I said something that couldn't be taken back. The rain eased into a drizzle, the sky bleeding orange from the streetlights. I drove aimlessly again, past blocks I'd grown up on, the liquor store, the basketball court, the corner where we used to laugh like we had forever. Every memory felt like a wound you could touch but never heal. At a red light, I saw kids on bikes racing under the rain. For a second, I saw us again, me, Smoke, Deke, before the world got complicated, before the names and colors and codes. I rolled the window down, felt the rain hit my skin. It was cold, sharp, real. Maybe I was already dead, and this was the city's way of letting me say goodbye. I parked near the riverbed where the walls were covered in graffiti. Names of the lost, faces fading under layers of paint. Mine was there too, Saint in bold red, cracked and peeling. I traced it with my hand. The paint flaked off like ash. That's when I made my choice. Not to run, not to fight, but to stop the cycle before it swallowed anyone else. If Smoke was right, if the streets had already written our fates, then maybe I could still change the last line. I went back to my place, cleaned up the room, took the photos off the wall, me and Deke as kids, me and Smoke on the block, all the ghosts smiling like they didn't know what was coming. I put them in a box and taped it shut. Outside, dawn was breaking. The sky was pale blue, streaked with pink. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled like metal. I sat by the window, listening to the city wake up. Distant horns, dogs barking, someone's radio playing an old R&B track. For the first time in years, I felt calm, like the storm inside me had finally burned itself out. Just before sunrise, a car slowed outside. I didn't need to look to know whose it was. Smoke stepped out, hoodie down, eyes red. He didn't carry anger, just the kind of guilt that eats at you slow. He looked up at my window. We didn't speak, didn't need to. Everything had already been said. Then he turned and walked away. I stayed there, hand pressed against the glass, watching him disappear into the morning light. The city kept breathing. The block kept moving. Life didn't stop for our ghosts. Maybe that was the point. I drove out later that morning, down Rosecrans, past all the places that made me. The streets were quiet, shining from the rain. I thought about how people would talk when they found out I was gone. They'd say Saint left the block. Or maybe they'd say the block left him. Didn't matter. All I wanted was peace. For me, for Deke, for Smoke if he ever found it. I pulled over one last time at the corner where we used to post up. The wall still had our names tagged side by side. I touched the paint, closed my eyes and whispered, "We made it, bro. One way or another." Then I got back in the car and drove west, toward the ocean, toward something that felt like freedom, even if it was just the illusion of it. That's how the legend ended. Not in fire or blood, but in rain and silence. Somewhere out there, the sun was rising over Compton. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I was just gone. They say the city forgets quick. But Compton, she got a long memory. Weeks passed after I left, or maybe it was months. Time moves different when you ain't part of it anymore. The block kept breathing, same rhythm, same scars. New faces filled the corners. Old ones turned to murals. The rain came and went, washing nothing away. Sometimes, when the wind slides through Rosecrans late at night, I swear I can still hear the echo of engines, the laughter, the arguments that used to shake the air. The block don't mourn loud. She just keeps moving like nothing ever happened. Smoke stayed. I heard he tried to clean up, start some small mechanic hustle behind the liquor store. Folks say he walks with a limp now, talks less. Maybe guilt live heavy on his spine. Maybe he just old before his time. As for Kilo's crew, gone. Folded into the next wave of young bloods who think they're writing new rules. Same code, same mistakes, just different slang. They tag the same walls, wear the same colors, chase the same ghosts. I watch them sometimes, from places I don't belong no more, and I wonder if any of them know how the story ends. Maybe that's the curse of this life. You never believe the warnings until you become one. Deke's grandma still keeps the porch light on. Every night, says it's for the boys who lost their way. She don't know that I stand across the street sometimes, in the dark, watching that warm yellow glow spill across the cracked steps. It's the only light in the neighborhood that don't flicker. I used to think peace meant distance, that if I drove far enough, changed my name, I could leave the noise behind. But peace ain't silence, it's acceptance. It's looking at the wreckage and saying, yeah, that was me. So I stopped running. I just became invisible. I live down by the docks now. Small room, cheap rent, walls thin enough to hear the ocean breathing at night. The air smells like salt and diesel. Out here, no one asks questions. Nobody knows Saint. Just a quiet man who fixes boats and keeps to himself. But every so often, somebody from back home drifts through. A cousin of a cousin, an old face from school, a driver on a long haul. They look twice when they see me like they seeing a ghost. They always ask the same thing. Yo, Saint. They said you dead. And I always smile a little. Maybe I am. They laugh, awkward, not sure what to believe. And before they can ask more, I change the subject. Because truth don't matter much once the legend's bigger than the man. The legend. Funny thing about that word. They made me into something I never was. Stories of a shooter who never missed. A man who took on the city and walked away clean. They say I vanished after the last war. Left nothing but a name and a shadow. Kids paint saint lives on walls they never seen me walk past. Old heads whisper my name like prayer or curse. They think I made it out. In a way I did, but not how they imagine. See, legends ain't real people. They're armor built from pain. Every lie they tell about you is just someone trying to find meaning in the mess you left behind. One night I went back. Not far, just enough to feel the heartbeat again. The block was quieter than I remembered. The old car wash gone, replaced by a parking lot. The murals faded, colors bleeding under years of sun. Only the ghost stayed bright. I parked under the same flickering light where I used to meet Smoke. The pole leaned a little now, wires buzzing like they still held secrets. I closed my eyes and let the sounds come back. Laughter, sirens, music blasting from somebody's ride. And for a moment, I felt it all again, the rush, the fear, the brotherhood that used to mean everything. Then I opened my eyes, and it was just me. The city had moved on. Before I left that night, I dropped something by the fence. A small box wrapped in black tape. Inside, 3 photos. Me and Deke as kids. Smoke with his arm around us at 17. And a note, folded once, no signature. It just said, "We were more than what they made us." That was my goodbye, my confession, my peace. People always ask why men like us can't just walk away. But they don't understand you can't leave a place that raised you. It's in your blood, your bones, your rhythm. You can move across oceans, change your name, cut your hair, pray until your knees ache. But when the sun hits pavement just right and that heat smell rises up, you're back on the block again. Every sound, every smell, every memory stitched to your soul like graffiti on concrete. Permanent. Sometimes I dream of the 3 of us sitting on that curb again. Deke laughing, Smoke rolling dice, me staring at the sky, wondering what's out there past the skyline. In the dream, it's always sunset. The city glows gold, like it forgave us. No guns, no sirens, just peace. Then I wake up, and the world's quiet again. And I realize maybe heaven ain't clouds or choirs. Maybe it's just one clean memory that never hurts to touch. Now, when the ocean wind hits at dawn, I talk to the ghosts. Tell them the block still stands. Tell them the kids still run wild. Tell them I kept the promise, we ain't forgotten. The water glitters silver under the first light, and for a second, it looks like the streets back home after rain. Same shine, same stillness. That's when I feel closest to it all. And I whisper, I'm still here, not alive, not dead, just here, like the echo of a name that won't fade. Maybe that's the truth of every legend. You don't die when the streets kill you. You die when they stop saying your name. And out there, in some cracked alley or dusty mural, someone's still spraying Saint in bold red paint. Still telling stories about the man who disappeared into the rain. So I guess I still live, in the only way this world ever lets you.